What's up guys, this is Yasin and today we're going to be going over 42 cards that I think are maybe not necessarily the best for the game, and we'll try to rank them by how cancerous they are for Yu-Gi-Oh! So we've got 4 categories of the ones that are radioactive, the ones that actually just make me want to commit toaster bath every time I see them, every time they're played against me, or even when I play them. I actually feel dirty and I feel like I need to take a shower after that. And then the cards that, you know, are cancerous and probably should be limited or should stay limited, the cards that are hazardous, so, you know, they're dangerous, but they're not as bad. They're not gonna decrease your lifespan when you play them. And the cards that are kind of fine to play, you know, even though these are, like, ridiculously powerful cards. I mean, not all of them. Some of them are actually fine. So I kind of did this on purpose just so that this video has a little bit more sustenance to it. But yeah, it's definitely going to be very interesting, and this is why I recommend you to stay all the way until the end. And, of course, don't be a bitch. But yeah, before we go any further, you already know the drill as always. Smash the like and subscribe button. And also check out my Blue Eyes and Crystron spreadsheet on my website, yacineygo.com. Very first link at the top of the description box below. And with that being said, let's get right into it. Okay, so the first card is Ash. And shockingly enough, I actually don't really like this card overall. I mean, there are a lot of hand traps that I despise. I think I've mentioned this quite a lot of times in the past, but I think this game would be in a much better position if a lot of the hand traps were just at 2, just so that you would kind of be forced to play like other kinds of hand traps and kind of diversify instead of just always playing the exact same every single time. Now it really does feel like gold format where everybody has like the same like 15-20 cards in common, and honestly it's kind of getting on my nerves. And cards like Ash, Imperm, etc., they are usually the culprits. Every single time you're choosing the non-engine that you're incorporating in your deck, this is always like step number 1, and then, you know, the other cards follow suit, and usually it's kind of like the same thing. It's very obvious, but really kills a lot of like the deck building magic, and it makes Yu-Gi-Oh! Just be a little less creative because, again, you can always expect this card to be played in everyone's deck. It's not that I think this card is overpowered or anything, but again, if you've skipped all the way until the end of the video and you're wondering why Ash is in this section, and you think that I'm stupid for thinking this, well, there you go, you really just proved my point and proved that you are a bitch for not watching all the way through. Anyways, Evenly Matched I think is a card that is completely tolerable. I mean, it's kind of fine. There's a lot of negates running around, and this is like the kind of card that really does, like, in a way deserve like its name. Like, it really does even the match out in the best way imaginable. Usually I have a lot more lenience for cards that are only really good going second and not going first, because going second you already have a huge handicap. So it is actually very fine to have cards like Evenly Matched to really combat that. Ash is a card that is good going first and second. That's the reason why I'm a little more strict on it, because, you know, when you go first, it's really frustrating when you're going second. You chummy your opponent ashes it, and you're like, alright, so that was my only hand trap, so now not only am I getting a hand loop for 1, but also you get to full combo, which is completely ridiculous. There are some situations where sometimes you have 2-3 hand traps, and none of them resolve because your opponent is talented the game. He ashes your chummy, he called buys your one hand trap, and then he cross outs the other. And yes, this did happen to me, by the way, once. But yeah, it's actually ridiculous. Yeah, no, I'm not a big fan of Ash, but Evenly is completely fine. Feather Duster, as shocking as this may sound, I actually think this is a completely fine card to unlimit. We can have 3 Dusters running around, and it honestly wouldn't break the game, because the majority of the degenerate decks out there, when you really think about it, what really makes them unfair is not like the spells and traps that they're searching, but it's how layered everything is, how easy it is for like them to play on your turn. Malice, for example, can set trap cards as they play and then flip them right away. This is literally unheard of. I mean, you know, it's not really. There are some other decks that can do this, like Odeon, Labyrinth, whatever. But you get the point. Duster, I think, is actually fine because there's so many counterplays. Even like the modern trap decks, they play in such a weird way that Duster is not even like their kryptonite anymore. It's hard to explain, but I think this card I think this is not really like a card that is ruining the game, and a lot of people are now playing this card. Sometimes they're playing Duster and no Lightning Storm, so I guess that speaks volume, because it's not like there's a huge power difference between Duster and Lightning Storm. It's actually minuscule. So even if we unlimit this, it's not like it will really break the game or anything. There can only be one, Rivalry, Goes in Match. All these cards are in the exact same category. Nothing good can come out of a card that just says, like, bro, don't even try. It's so stupid. Very sacky, frustrating one of. It's not searchable at all, but why limit these cards when banning them is just, like, so much better? Again, I'm talking from a purely logical standpoint. I don't care about having more cards around in Yu-Gi-Oh! That doesn't make me happy. I really couldn't care less. Then again, if you disagree with me, then there's no reason for you to even watch this video because you're so close-minded that nothing I'll say will ever convince you. But the way I see things and the way a lot of people see things is, why have super annoying cards when there's, I mean, very few cards in the game that can really deal with these cards? I mean, there's a lot, but they're really garbage. So it's not like I'm really trying to main deck back row removal or anything, or side deck them against decks that don't lose to back row removal. I think all these cards are super cancerous. There can only be one being like the most unfair usually out of the three. Usually this covers more ground, and then Rivalry and Gozen are very interchangeable. Whatever. Call by the Grave, yeah, that's... I think most people will agree on the fact that Call by the Grave and then Cross Out and Talent, they're basically all on the same league of it being just insanely frustrating cards. Kind of similarly to Ash, how, you know, like you get hit by these cards and you're like, now I have even less of a chance to beat you going second. Call by the Grave would have been such a perfect card if it wasn't hitting Handshap. Like if it was hitting Engine and stuff, it would have been fantastic because I actually like this card, like the design of it. And Cross Out, same thing, but Cross Out, I mean, it's realistically only really used for Handshaps, even though, yeah, sure, you can cross out, you know, Metal Chonus and, you know, Engine cards, and it can act as like an Imperm or whatever in like a pretty cool way. Like you can cross out Dimensional Barrier potentially. Now that it's at 1, it's never gonna happen, but historically this card has also done interesting things. But 99.9% of the time, it's doing degenerate things, and it's being played in unfair decks, and I do not support that. Triple Tactic Talent, I think I will give a little bit more lenience to, just because this card is almost equally good going first as it is going second, and also this card doesn't always just punish handshaps. Like sometimes you're breaking boards with Talent. If you couldn't look at the opponent's hand, it would be a perfect card. Like draw 2 cards or steal an opponent's monster, that would have been fantastic. But looking at the opponent's hand is what really pisses me off, because now it's like I handshap you, you look at my hand, you get knowledge, you make the perfect board, and you make me lose my one and only other handshap, and now I for sure die. This card, it's so impossible to actually win a game after they resolve that effect when they're going first, because Forbidden Droplet, again, same argument as like the other cards overall. Like anything that just breaks boards going second is like by default to me way more fair. Nibiru is very interesting. There's no real difference between like keeping this card at 3 or semi-limiting it, but I think this card is actually great for Yu-Gi-Oh! Shockingly, as shocking as this may sound, this is like one of the handshaps that I actually really believe in, because it forces you to become better at the game. Like it forces you to actually make combos through Nibiru, and then obviously like respecting it, being greedy, etc., because there's a huge difference. Other than the fact that when you're going second, trying to break a board, and also the fact that your opponent has Nibiru, usually this card doesn't really do anything too degenerate. Like this card going second, it doesn't even feel that broken. I think this card is actually very fair for the game overall, and I can't really think of like too many decks that will always lose to Nibiru every single time. Usually it's the player that loses to Nib, not really the deck. Maybe you're gonna see like Hero or something, but even then, even the new support is actually not too bad into this card. It's not really the end of the world. Different Dimension Ground, yeah, again, like I've already expressed myself on like lingering Floodgate bullshit. Different Dimension Ground really just almost skips your turn, so yeah, that's completely BS. Bestials, I mean, there's like an argument where you can say, oh yeah, they should all get banned. Magnamut particularly, and then Joue's Worm I think is actually fine, but then again, they only affect light and dark monsters, and while the Bestials exist, it's not that there's no reason to look at DD Crow, because DD Crow can still hit like, you know, non-light and dark monsters or spells and traps, so it's actually decent if your opponent goes like Kusanagi, target Mitsurugi Ritual to recycle it back. Then you can DD Crow, whereas the Bestials won't really do anything there. But the Bestials, they feel like they give you so much advantage when you resolve them, while also hurting the opponent way too much, because one Magnamut is like 2 banishes, and then 2 bodies on your field, and also Joue's Worm is going to send something to the grave. Or you can make a rank 6, and then break your opponent's board even more. So yeah, I think this is like cancerous cards that I'm not a big fan of, but it's kind of fine if we keep them in 1. That doesn't mean that I like those cards though. I still think they're cancerous. But I mean, especially Magnamut. The other ones are fine, like I said. Triple Tactic Thrust. Yeah, again, same logical argument as everything else. Like anything that's like very good going second, but actually fine going first, because I plan on destroying all the floodgates, by the way. So that's the reason why I think that this card is completely tolerable. Dominus Impulse. I think this card is extremely fair just because of how restrictive it is. It's not like everyone can play this card. Your deck has like its own signature of like attributes. So it either plays Impulse or Purge or sometimes none of the cards. It really like diversifies, you know, tech cards and deck building, and I think that's a good thing for the game. So Impulse and Purge, they are on the same boat, and yeah, there you go. Obviously, where there's one, there's obviously the other. Impulse being more powerful than Purge, obviously. I mean, sometimes Purge is better. So yeah, I guess against like Raziel decks or pure Raziel, Purge is better than Impulse because at least you negate whatever, Bonfire 7 Tachyon, Duo Drive, even though the Duo Drive doesn't really have to resolve anymore. Solemn Strike. So what I plan on doing is that I want to limit all the Solemn cards so that instead of always playing, you know, 3 Strike and 3 Judgment or 3 Strike or 3 Judgment, what people will have to do is actually diversify and play 1 Strike, 1 Judgment, and 1 Warning. I actually think that this is fair play. And the reason why I say this is because, I mean, if you have way too many options, some of them are just going to be getting completely ignored. And I think it's actually better if people start playing a lot of different cards in their deck, just so that, you know, we explore more cards in the card pool of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like I said, I keep using the same argument, but it's really frustrating when, like, the same 15 to 20 cards are being played by literally everyone. And I feel like with Solemn Strike or Solemn Judgment, usually that is the case. And sometimes Warning sees a little bit of play. Like right now, for example, it's not too bad against Mitsurugi because you can negate the ritual spell. But again, it would be fantastic, at least in my eyes, if we can limit all 3 of them so that moving forward, people are always going to be playing 1 of each. And honestly, it would be kind of like the good old days, like 10, 15 years ago, where we only had like 1 Warning and then no Judgment. And yeah, I mean, I think it was like better back then, maybe. The mold shummies are kind of interesting, and again, where there is one, there's also the other. Like, are we semi-limiting all of them? Maybe, but Furos is like probably the exception to the rule. There's an argument to be made on both sides, like maybe these cards are good for the game, maybe they're not. I think Fua is like the only one that I actually really dislike, but obviously these cards, they're dreadful to draw when you go first, so they're only broken going second, which is the reason why I kind of want to give them a pass, but at the same time, they're a little too good going second, to the point where sometimes it's actually better to go second, but at the same time, when you don't draw them, going second feels really shitty, so it has a lot of sackiness and bullshit variance to the game, which is not the best, because it just adds, like, frustration, which takes away from the fun aspect, and I don't know. Still, though, if I want to, like, stay true to, like, my own convictions, technically, I should actually keep all these cards in this section, because, again, they are going second only, but I hate these cards from the bottom of my heart. I mean, not all of them, actually, but Fuaros especially. So, honestly, just to be super nice, I'm gonna keep both of them here, but then Fuaros should be in, like, the semi-limited section, even though that's not really... I don't really feel super strongly about, like, limiting or banning these cards right now, but I think eventually they will have to go, but I think right now it's, like, whatever. If we actually have to, like, live with these cards, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't really bother me all that much. Heatwave is interesting. As long as we have hand shops running around, this card will not be too unfair, but if it ever becomes, like, a board breaker format or, like, an engine-only format, Heatwave is actually unfair, because you activate Heatwave, your opponent doesn't, like, all of his engine cards are nullified, the board breakers are useless, and then you just go normal summon, Chandra, attack, whatever game. But if you have hand shops, then you can actually defend yourself from that, so it's not the same story. I use the example of Chandra, but that's a really basic example. Technically, every deck out there can play Heatwave, in theory, because your opponent, like, shotguns some chummies on draw phase, whatever, and then you activate Heatwave, so your opponent loses the chummies, and you still have the ability to, like, OTK next turn. So yeah, this card has actually been explored in non-OTK decks and non-going second decks in the past. Like, you willingly choose to go first and side this card in, and if you do, then you, instead of comboing, you just activate this card. Or if your hand is broken, you combo and then you use this card as a discard fodder. But it actually adds a lot of depth to the game, but it is a very cancerous card. So, like, in theory, it should probably get banned, but then again, it does, like I said, add some nice layer of complexity and interesting mechanics that are usually not really used in Yu-Gi-Oh! So that's nice. I guess mind games, but in a good way. Super Poly is a card that on paper is radioactive. It's really broken, really unfair, but this card is just as good as the targets that you play, and honestly, it's actually kind of fine. It really is. Like, you have to play so many targets for this card to usually be, like, super worth playing overall. Like, if you want to main deck the card, at least, and if you want to side deck it, then what are you doing? Are you also side decking the Super Poly targets? That doesn't make any sense to me. So I think that, by definition, this card is kind of okay just because of all the commitment. But yeah, again, like the effect of the card is broken, and every now and then, depending on the format, this card will be like by far the best non-engine because there's like no counterplay to it. Like you can't respond, and yeah, the body that you generate, sometimes it's really good, sometimes it's garbage, but sometimes Mud Dragon can help you like beat multiple interruptions that your opponent has. Like, you can't target my stuff, there you go, Merry Christmas, now you're dead. So yeah, that's cool. I think this card is interesting, but yeah, it is definitely a good card. Dark Ruler, I mean, this card is like inherently very balanced, very fair card, because, you know, your opponent doesn't take damage, and also it's a normal spell. It doesn't have the flexibility of Forbidden Droplet, but Forbidden Droplet is still a fair card, just because there is a lot of like payment with this card. You know, it's not like everything is super free. So, you know, you draw this card going first, it's not useless, and you draw this card going second, get ready to get rid of a lot of cards. And unless you're playing like Crystron, for example, check out my Crystron spreadsheet, by the way, it's really difficult to like send a lot of cards for free. Usually you're gonna be actually negging and you're gonna feel it. Anti-spell is bullshit. I think we can all agree on that. I don't really think there's a single human on earth who's stupid enough to think that anti-spell is good for the game. Like, you actually, I'm not even gonna finish my sentence, but you're definitely a dumbass. Like, if you think that this card is fine, I don't even know. Gravekeeper's Inscription, bro, this card is terrible for the game too. But then again, like, it's kind of comparable to Heatwave. Like, you gotta use it at the start of your main phase 1, but it doesn't really hurt you. Like, if you call the effect that doesn't hurt you, then who cares? It lingers, it's bullshit. I hate this card, screw it. Metal Tronus is fine. Sometimes it behaves like a Solemn Strike. In Razor Mirror matches, for example, or Malice Mirror match, you banish the card face down, that's pretty good. But then again, it can't get ashed, unlike these cards. Cool card, but it's especially a going second card, and again, going second cards are a little more fair. Terraforming, there's not a lot of like super unfair field spells right now. Every now and then, this card is like terrible for the game, but I still think that this card should get banned, honestly. I don't even know why every single field spell deck, they just get like one extra consistency card for no good reason. I don't really feel super strongly about it. It's either that we keep this card at 1 or we ban it, but there's no way I want to see like multiple terraformings. Like, no. Just, like, bro, the top tier decks are consistent enough. Let's not make them even better. Foolish Burial, yo, I actually think that this is one of the very few cards in the game that actually deserves, like, perfectly deserves its spot in the limit section. It's not unfair, it's not annoying, it's not, like, overused. It's not like you're by default always playing this in, like, a deck. Like, for example, Terraforming, you're always playing this in a deck with field spells. Terraforming, Foolish Barrel, I don't know, like, in, like, the Fiendsmith deck, for example, or decks with a Fiendsmith engine, like, you would think that, like, Foolish, for example, would be okay, but it's actually garbage. And then, whatever, like, there's so many examples where you would think that this card would be fine. No, it just doesn't do anything. So yeah, I think that this card is actually very okay, and yeah, not unfair at all. Yeah, it's completely fine to keep at 1. And like I said, I'm actually kind of happy that it's at 1, because I think any other number would probably be a little annoying. Dimensional Fissure, just because of the fact that you can beat like Droll and Valor and stuff like that, not a big fan. But then again, it's honestly not the end of the world. Like, it's anywhere between like one of these 3 sections. I don't really feel strongly about it, but just because I know that people are gonna be butthurt, I'm still gonna keep it in this section, just because, yeah, screw you guys. Skill Drain, no, we're definitely not, like, not banning this card. We're absolutely banning it. Dimensional Barrier, again, anything that lingers is bullshit. Anything that, like, skips your turn is stupid. Pot of Prosperity, I'm not gonna complain too much about this card anymore. Bonfire, honestly, like, on paper, this card is actually very fair. It's really just the Razor cards are unfair, but the card itself, it's like, it's once per turn, it only searches Pyro monsters. Reinforcement of the Army has, like, a much bigger card pool of card that it can search, and it's not once per turn. So that's the reason why there's a big difference between Reinforcement of the Army and Bonfire. But if we just take away Razor from the equation, Bonfire is actually very fine. Yeah, it's a card that we can unlimit, but then again, there's a caveat. Hopefully people are not skipping all the way until the end. Like a Featherstorm. If anything, this is probably one of the most ban-worthy cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. And it's actually kind of crazy how nobody's talking about this, but this card has been a sleeper problem for quite a while, where every now and then, people are randomly going to abuse this card in decks that have no business abusing it. Just like Feather Duster, it has Harpy in its name, and I swear on my life, I don't remember the last time I've seen Harpy, like, surge I mean, yeah, they can obviously surge these cards in front of you, but it's not really, like, the main reason why these cards are good. It really isn't. People are just going to like Trap Trick into this, or Feather Storm into, Thrust into this, or just, you know, if they're good at the game, they're hard drawing it, and then they make Castell, or, you know, Swamp Mirror off of Silhouette Rabbit, or any bullshit, and then they Feather Storm you, and then you die. It's literally just that simple. And because of stupid cards like this, you have to play Xyz on Core so that you can bounce back the Castell and draw phase on turn player, which is dumb. Yeah, it really takes away a lot of fun from the game. It shouldn't exist. Dimensional Shifter, kind of tired of like repeating myself. Drool and Logbird. This I think is like the only hand shop other than Shifter that I think should actually get banned, because it feels on paper better than the Chummies, since it's always good going first and second. It's not at all once per turn, so if your Droll gets called by, then you can just chain a second Droll. I don't know, this card's annoying, especially when you're going second. Again, same argument as Nibiru. You gotta break a board, and then your opponent also has Droll. That's just like the writing on the wall. Like, you've absolutely died. There is no reason to even try. It's insanely infuriating. It's not like, I mean, by the way, the order doesn't actually matter. But yeah, no, it's just like, this card pisses me off so much sometimes, and sometimes it does nothing. Any card that is like so sporadic in how it behaves, and how frustrating it theoretically can be, it's just a no-no for me. Mistaken Arrest, if we limit it, then people are gonna have like less incentive to play it. But honestly, on paper, this card is super cancerous. She really shouldn't exist. And every now and then, people are playing it in Malice, so... Imperm, yeah, same argument as Ash. Water Bear statue, yeah, these kinds of cards shouldn't exist. This statue is like particularly annoying. Obviously, the Wind Bear statue was the most frustrating because of how searchable it was in Flunderies. But this is searchable in Mermail, and like Water decks in general because of the level 7 monster that, you know, targets one of your banished cards, added back to your hand, and then summon the Water Bear statue from deck. Yeah, this is complete BS, and honestly, I feel like Fossil Dyna and every single bear statue should all get banned. So yeah, this, let's just say that it represents every single card that the stun players like to play a lot. They are all complete BS. And then Lightning Storm is actually very fair. Bro, I swear to God, we can have 3 Lightning Storm, 3 Duster, nobody would give 2 shit. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, draw 4 board breakers that don't really do much of anything because people are gonna make 67,000 negates? You might as well draw hand shops, right? But then again, I'm semi-limiting the hand shops, so that means that people have to play more board breakers. But that also means more interaction in Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is way more fair. And if we also decrease the power level and not make everything like a 1-card FTK and stuff, I think this game is actually gonna go into the right, you know, a great direction. But for the most part, I think this is like relatively good. Honestly, I don't, like I said, I don't really feel super strongly about like all of them. A bunch of the cards that are on this section, I think, actually deserve their place. A lot of these cards are super bullshit. They should absolutely not be in this game. So I think especially the radioactive section, I definitely stand by it. And then anything below that, it's like not set in stones. I could probably change my opinion like tomorrow or something. I don't really care too much. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys very, very soon with another video. And let me know how you feel about this tier list in the comment section below. Peace.